At DJ Learning, with the various modules that we offer, whether they are online, whether they are blended, so a mixture of online and face-to-face, or purely face-to-face, we have a core belief, and that core belief is when we work with you, nothing stops when that event finishes. So in other words, we continue to build. Nothing finishes at the end of one of the events that we run. Why? Because learning is lifelong, and one of the ways in which you can really build on any learning is to self-reflect. So you stop, you pause, you think, you look to understand why a particular set of events happened. Self-reflection is really important because it allows a person to learn from his or her own mistakes and past situations. Ideally, it's a structured way to think positively and to make better decisions. So in other words, we look back, we think, we pause, we look to understand, and then we think about what, if anything, and that if anything side of things is really, really important, you could do differently. The sorts of things you need to think about is to be really detailed. Not, it was really good, because it may well have been, but why was it really good? Or, it was absolutely chaotic. Why was it particularly chaotic? And then you say, well, actually, what could I have done about it? And this is where you always need to be really honest, because sometimes if you look back and things have not gone as well as you hoped, it may well be because you did everything you could at that time, and no matter how many times you replay it, it's not going to get any better. Or other times, you might look back, so say for example when you were running a meeting, or you were attending a meeting, or you were preparing for a particular event, and you know internally, you know you rushed, you know you cut corners, you know actually you tried to wing it. And you know that if you were doing it again, you could probably have done a better job. So what is key when you self-reflect is that you are really, really honest. Because self-reflection without honesty has no value at all. It's pure mechanistic exercise, so there is no point. It's about really taking a view on how things were, how they really were, and seeing what you can learn and do differently next time. We also need to be really clear when we're talking about self-reflection. It's not always about learning from mistakes, because we all make them and we can all learn from them. But actually, it could be about building on success. So if you are really good at something, reflect back and think, well, how can I be even better next time? So push your personal learning boundaries. Or the third option, as we were saying just now, is, do you know, that's how it was, and that's how it was, and that's how it is, and that's how it will always be. So for example, in my personal situation, there's different skills that I wish I could be better at, much, much better at, but I could spend every day for the rest of my days trying to become really good, and I know it's not going to happen. But there are other parts of my skill sets I look to continually develop because they keep seeming to improve. So it will always be a balance. The other thing just to mention with self-reflection, reflect on fact and examples, not hunch or perception. And when you can, as well as looking at your own perceptions on events and facts, invite feedback from others, particularly from others whose opinion and perspectives that you value. So that could be from peers, it could be from your children, it could be from line management, it could be from customers. Why that is important is you can then compare your third-party perceptions with your own. Maybe they'll match up, maybe they won't. And you can either look to understand the consistency or look to understand any differences. So it is really, really important. And what we're going to do now is Oliver and I are going to share with you some examples about how we've reflected back on things that we've done and what we've learned from those particular events. Oliver.
So self-reflection wise, quite a key time for me was as a team manager in my previous role, particularly when I was new to it. So when I started, it was a bit out of your comfort zone and slightly the deep end treatment, but I can say that when I look back on my first assignment, whilst you do think about how you did things and what you could do differently, I was confident in my delivery and my end results. So whilst there was an element of self-reflection, it doesn't always have to mean you look back and you definitely change things. I was confident that I was leading by example, and I was proud of the results that the group and I delivered, and I took that on with me as I progressed through to different department and different challenges.
So the examples that I'd like to share with you about my own self-reflections also demonstrate where you can get your key pieces of feedback from, but they also demonstrate the power of feedback, because the two examples I'd like to share with you were both from my dad. Dad said words, and when he said them, I always listened. And I remember one day, and this is a long, long time ago, good few years ago, which also demonstrates the power of positive feedback. We were having an evening meal, myself and my parents, and we were talking about different things. And from nowhere, my dad said to me, he said, "I wouldn't like to work for you." And I thought, whoa. bit of a conversation showstopper for a minute, and I thought, well, what is that all about? Because my DNA is always to really go for it and be passionate about everything that I do. That's just who I am. And my dad said to me, he said, yeah, absolutely. He got that bit. He knew I really went for everything that I did. And he said, remember, he said, not everybody is like you. And I will always remember that. And what that really got me to start thinking about, because at the time I had quite a few people that I was working with, that were working with me. And it really made me pause to think, why are all those people coming to work with you in the morning? Lots of different reasons for why I was going to work. And actually, did I take my work too seriously? And what should I expect of other people that were working with me? So there was no right, there was no wrong, but it certainly got me to think. And from that day on, I thought in a much more reflective way about the people that were working with me. Doesn't make me perfect today by a long way, because I continually try to develop in that way. But that was from feedback from my dad a good few years ago now. And even before that, this is going back to my schooling, so a good few years ago. So when it was coming up to exam time, something that has stuck with me and is with me now, and I share with my children now and with the people that we work with, clients around the world. My dad always used to say to me, do the best you can. Now, as a teenager coming up to do GCSEs, a supportive parent would say things like that for all the right reasons in the world. And I never quite understood what those words meant at that time, other than the support and love that my dad and my mum always used to give me. Now I can understand exactly what my dad meant. That is, life has constraints. We don't live, although it would be lovely, in a world where all of us had wonderful blue skies every day, where everything is perfect, because life is not like that. We have constraints to navigate through. Some can be really restrictive for different periods of time at different points in our lives. So what I do now is, when I'm reflecting back, maybe I can understand if I didn't quite get to where I needed to get to, providing they're really good reasons, so these constraining reasons. So those words, doing the best that you can, have become a real part of who I am today, and we actually share as part of our self-reflection philosophy with all the events that we run. So of course we really hope to have the opportunity to work with you, and when we do, you'll see that the philosophy of self-reflecting, so taking your learning with you, always looking to understand what happened and why, and also one of our key mantras, doing the best that you can, will be part of everything that we do. So we will look forward to understanding how we can work with you. If you have chance, please have a look at our website, www.djlearning.co.uk. Thank you very much.